In Path of Exile, the item power of loot scales with monster level, so as you kill more difficult enemies, you're rewarded with more powerful gear. The loot system in Diablo 4, on the other hand, is designed to start feeding you ancestral gear as soon as you enter World Tier 4, which is the exact same ancestral gear that drops from level 154 monsters in Tier 100 Nightmare dungeons. And while you may get more ancestral drops in higher tier Nightmare dungeons, this doesn't properly incentivize the player, because by the time you're clearing these high tier Nightmare dungeons, you're going to be more or less decked out in full ancestral gear already. If the equipment that dropped from these monsters scaled with their level, it would create an additional layer of character progression and a practical reason to engage with in-game content. Inventory management in Diablo 4 is a joke. There's just no way to store all the aspects, gems, sigils, gear, etc. that you acquire. In fact, this even limits the number of characters you can make, since it's almost mandatory to make mules to help carry some of this loot. Joe Shelley, the game director of Diablo 4, talked about this in one of the fireside chats and used the term inventory pressure to describe this phenomenon that they intentionally created. Right? This isn't a bug, it's a feature. PoE has a similar problem if you play without stash tabs, but Grinding Gear Games recognized that sitting in town managing your inventory is not fun, so they started selling stash tabs to alleviate this problem. Not only did this allow players to spend more time engaging with content they enjoy, but it created an additional revenue stream for Grinding Gear Games. I expected Blizzard to release stash tabs, but it seems like this is likely impossible due to the way that the game is coded. According to Joe Pipiora, the associate game director of Diablo 4, when you see another player in the game, you load them in their entire stash filled with all their items. There are multiple pinnacle bosses you can challenge in PoE, and while these bosses are difficult, they drop some of the most powerful gear in the game. Uber Lilith is very challenging, but she doesn't drop anything useful. Some players, like myself, enjoy a challenge and will take the time to kill her even if it doesn't reward anything. However, many players would take this content more seriously if there was a reward for doing it other than just a mount and a title. I think that Uber Lilith should drop Uber Uniques, because the best gear should drop from the hardest content. Speaking of, in Diablo 4, Uber Uniques might as well not exist. Not only are the drop rates way too low, but even if one drops, it isn't tradable. Conversely, in PoE you have extremely rare and powerful items like Headhunter and Mage Blood, which can take a long time or a lot of luck to farm yourself. However, not only are these items tradable, but divination cards also make it easier to target farm these specific items. If I want a Mage Blood in PoE, I can just play the game however I want, save up currency, and eventually buy one. I've played hundreds of hours of Diablo 4 since launch, and I am no closer to acquiring an Uber Unique than I was when I first created my character. Trading in Diablo 4 is also pretty bad. First, legendaries and uniques can't be traded, and these are often the items that players are chasing for their builds. While rare items can be traded, the main way of buying and selling on Diablo 4 is Discord, which is slow and inefficient. Grinding Gear Games has their marketplace PoE Trade where you can filter items by specific stats to find the exact item that you want. While this system can be clunky, it's miles better than using Discord and allows for the use of other tools like Awaken PoE Trade to make the process easier. Finally, the economy of Diablo 4 has been ruined by a series of exploits that have caused gold to be essentially worthless in Diablo 4. Obviously bugs happen, and this happens to Grinding Gear Games too. Even in the most recent 3.22 update of PoE, there's been bugs where hundreds of Divine Orbs dropped in Sanctum, or Divine Orbs were being duplicated. However, as of this recording, Divines are still going for over 200 Chaos each, so these bugs didn't have a massive impact on the average player. On the other hand, Diablo 4 has had multiple instances of people being able to sell items to vendors infinitely, being able to duplicate golden items, and even people transferring golden items from the Eternal Realm to the Seasonal one. This makes it nearly impossible to buy anything on Discord as a newer player because gear will often go for billions of gold. In fact, the largest limitation for the trade system isn't how much gold you can acquire, it's how much gold you can carry. Since you can only carry 10 billion gold per account and many items are worth much more than this now, people have to have multiple accounts or get friends to help them carry gold to buy and sell items.